For nearly 40 years, guitar hero Pat Metheny has sold over 20 million albums with his take on modern jazz. But in 2010, he embarked on his most ambitious project ever by leading a group of computerized player piano type instruments. A live concert of the Orchestrion Project is just coming to DVD and will be playing in some theaters as well.
So I sort of had this idea. Everybody thought I was nuts. Basically, I commissioned people to build the instruments and wrote a bunch of music, made a record, and then did about 140 concerts around the world. So the Orchestrion Project is essentially this. It's taking the front-end control of 21st century technology, meaning computers and so forth, but with a sort of 19th century output, meaning acoustic sound. So in essence, what I'm doing is from my guitar, I'm triggering acoustic instruments, physically beating, smacking, hitting, blowing, doing physical things. And I thought if I ever do a solo concert, I want to do something really different. So I think we could probably say mission accomplished.
Tech that you bring with you, I want to hear about. You're traveling for 150 dates. So are you sitting upstairs FaceTiming with the kids? What are you doing?
It's funny about FaceTime, because I do spend a lot of time on the road. We've all kind of found that seeing each other, it makes it all even sadder. Mm-hmm. So we just talk on the phone, basically. But of course, Skype has been fantastic for musicians that travel internationally, where hotels used to just stick it to you big time for long-distance phone calls. I mean, now we can really talk for as much time as we need every day, so that's great. One thing that is a big thing for me, and I think for a lot of musicians, is the iTunes store for TV shows. Get The Daily Show, to get, for instance, this
So
tour,
when you're on the bus?
When I'm on the bus, it's not so much the system in the bus, it's more my computer that I've downloaded. Like for instance, this whole tour, I've watched the entire, from the beginning of Breaking Bad. So I'm up to date now, which is an unbelievable show. Kind of different tours have been different shows. Orchestrion tour, that was Californication.
Okay, and the solo guitar tour?
Oh, Weeds.
Weeds,
yeah.
Okay, so you're into cable.
So I just kind of get a whole 5 seasons of something that I've never seen, and then kind of watch it all at once.
In 1975, 21-year-old Pat Metheny recorded his first album as a leader, Bright Size Life, an album that has since achieved classic status. Featuring the late legendary Jaco Pastorius on bass, the album recently got selected by the Smithsonian Institute in a collection of landmark jazz recordings. So in a recent interview with USA Today, Metheny looked back at the legacy of Bright Size Life.
When it came out, it was moderately, successful, I guess. It sold, 800-900 copies and got a couple reviews, medium-y kind of reviews, and it really wasn't till about 10 or 15 years later that people really noticed it. And now it's in the Smithsonian. I mean, it's a classic, everybody says, but it was really not perceived that way at the time. I've seen that kind of again and again and again, and more to the point, most of the people that are really enthusiastic about Bright Size Life are people who were not born at that time. I notice this again and again and again, that the people who really get hip to something, first of all, it may take 15 years before they really do. But, I'm kind of swinging for the fences in the sense that I understand that many of the people that are going to really follow, like for instance, the Unity Band record that's out right now, they're not here yet. They're not even on the planet right now. So, the X factor for that record was, the fact that it was going to be my first record, that I had brought in this bass player that nobody had heard of at that time, and they, trusted me enough to do that, which was cool. And of course, that all worked out really well. Jaco was really something. That's one of the best records that you can find of his playing. That was him really at his peak. And it's a very special record. And, you know, kind of, for me, the main thing about it is that the expectation that the first 8 notes of that record, which are kind of this solo guitar thing, that sets up really everything that has followed, in the sense that there's a few pieces in place there that are stylistically a departure from what had been happening in jazz until then, in the sense that there was a certain kind of harmonic ambiguity, but also a lack of fear about like major triads that, you know, was not exactly that common at that time. And for me, writing music sort of emerged as a way to find a platform for improvising. And once I understood that, you know, the composing thing has taken a much larger like part of the pie.
I'm very impressed with your nails. I've never seen nails like that. We should get a shot of those nails.
No.
The camera's gone?
No.
That's
Don't
unbelievable.
Do that. It's gross. It actually, I have to be careful not to reveal this till like when I pay at like McDonald's or something, because it freaks people out so much. I mean, this has to do with the baritone guitar, because without that, it's not going to happen. And basically, Korean women are like the John Coltrane of fingernails. They've sort of figured this out. And from that, there are a couple people who have sort of applied it to guitar. There's one guy in Germany who has really found, because each acrylic bass has a slightly different sound, kind of like picks do. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of experimented and has found really the ultimate mix of the various kinds of acrylics. So I ordered this stuff from him. I have a UV lamp, but I have to stay on it constantly. You can see that I'm patching them together. Huh? No more what?
No more picks.
No, I use picks too. This is for, you know, playing solo and you know, the Picasso guitar too. I mean, the strings are so thick that it just, without that one, because you know, this is fairly recent, in the last 10 years for me. I mean, it was a constant battle of keeping fingernails going. So this is a real kind of life-changing technology for me, actually.
Oh, let's talk about YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube. Every performance you've ever given, theoretically, is on YouTube. Unbelievable. Poland, Italy, Sweden, Switzerland. I'm looking last night. Everything from every era. It's amazing. How do you feel about that?
It's an unexpected turn of events for me. I mean, you know, when you play that crappy gig in Germany in 1983 that, you know, it's like, well, okay, we got through that one. That's behind us. And then it sort of gets regurgitated 20-some years later, and it's like, oh my God, really? That's not too great. On the other hand, there are things like, wow, we sounded, you know, like if you look at all of it, you know, together, it's like there's a consistency there that speaks for itself. It's like, okay, well, that's sort of what it is. And to me, the main thing is the way it limits the possibilities now. Because I mean, I used to love going play jam sessions and go sit in and, you know, do things spontaneously. You can't do that anymore. Everything you do, as you said, is forever documented. It's nothing is casual anymore, because I mean, you can't even have a conversation with somebody after the gig because there's somebody there, you know, filming it. So, you know, it really turns out that the Big Brother thing that was predicted, it's us. I mean, I have a feeling that there will come a point where the idea of somebody texting at a concert or holding up their phone is going to be such a socially unacceptable thing to do, because you look like an idiot when you're doing it, and it's also kind of really inappropriate, especially if the musicians are asking you not to do that. So I got a feeling that will probably...
Then why are there so many clips of you?
Well,
more than most. I mean, of your stature, there's so much.
Well, you know, I think that it's a testament to this moment in culture that is something that is attractive to people to do. And you know, it's kind of a game changer for somebody who's an improviser. And I would say this includes comedians. You know, they seem to be having a real struggle with this because you can't try things out. You can't do that anymore. Everything you do now is a world premiere.
So you come out last night and say, please, no cell phones, blah, 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 and half the room takes it. And then post it later that night.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not just me. A lot of musicians, this is incredibly irritating, not so much for the thing, but the thing of you ask for people not to do it and then they still do it. So, I mean, I can think of one or two piano players that are quite well known, that it just shuts them down. They cannot perform after that. And so the audience is actually like chopping off their own heads in a way by this.